Hey everybody! Hello, hello. I can see a lot of viewers already, so that's pretty nice. I guess you guys are all excited.
Hey
Thank you so
guys.
much. Thank you so much for coming in today. Let us know how you feel in the chat, what kind of llama you are. If you're an excited llama, curious llama, llama from Tacoma. Hi, Alan. All right, I think we can be heard already. Hi, Gemini. Did I pronounce your name correctly? How are you guys doing? Okay, I think we can start. So hello again. Welcome, everybody, to another 30-minute class with Etchr, and my name is Kathleen. I'll be your studio host for today, and I am joined by an amazing artist, which you have known already, may have known already, because she's going to be teaching with Etchr again. Her name is Curé, and she's going to teach us some super cool and unique techniques in drawing people or sketching people in places. Okay, lots of people in the chat already. That escalated real quickly.
Super. Good to hear it.
Yeah, so since we're Christmas is came early for Etcher, as you may have already known, we are officially giving you unlimited access to all recordings and any live 90-minute class, and that includes Róisín's 90-minute class, which I'll be posting in the chat soon. So if you're curious about our new website and have questions about um our subscription, go ahead and check out the chat because I'm going to be sending that there. And as per usual, if you have any questions for you, Róisín, go ahead and type them in the chat in all caps so that we can raise them. And we don't expect you to follow along today, but if you decide to do so, we'll go ahead and I'll go ahead and post that link in the chat for Róisín's reference photo. And of course, if you decide to follow along today, go ahead and post your work on Facebook group or tag Róisín on Instagram. I'll go ahead and drop the links to her media account later on. And if you like what we'll be teaching today, Róisín has a 90-minute class, like I've mentioned, this January 6th, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. I'll be dropping that link in the chat as well. And I think that's it for me. I'll go ahead and uh, hand over the floor to Róisín to discuss more about what she'll be doing in the mini workshop or 90-minute class and get us started with some creative painting today. So, Róisín, go ahead.
Thanks so much, Kathleen, and thanks so much for inviting me back. It's just great to be here and to share some really cool techniques when it comes to drawing people live. So loads of you guys will know, if you know me and what I do, I'm a live sketcher. So what you're looking at here in the screen is basically my photographs. I'm a terrible photographer, and it really doesn't matter because it's just not what attracts me. I like to draw. I like to draw whatever I'm doing. So this picture comes from a town in France called Clermont-Ferrand, and I was there in the middle of November attending a travel sketchbooking festival. So myself and my colleagues decided we wouldn't bring any stools with us when we wanted to sketch, and that means that we had to sit in cafes to sketch. And to be quite honest, it's a really nice way to approach a sketch, is to just sit down, grab a cup of coffee and just get on with the people around you. For one thing, it sets you off in a very relaxed frame of mind. And the punters, the other customers, are pretty relaxed too. And they're not inclined to notice you so much. You're sitting there with a small sketch pad and really you can get away with it, because one thing a lot of sketchers don't want is to be noticed when they're sketching people around you. So I'll talk a little bit about discretion and keeping it on the low down, or the don't let down low, whatever the cool kids say. And what I want to do as well today is, whilst I draw in pen a lot of the time, a really good technique is to capture your people in colored pencils. And the reason why, and we're going to find out why, is because it means that it's very forgiving. The watercolor is very forgiving. It's very soft, and it means that you can make a shape and change your shape, and then you can go over it with your regular pencil. So I'm going to use coloring pencils. I'm going to use watercolor pencils, and the brand I'm using today is Faber-Castell. Let's get that in focus. I don't think I can, but never mind. There we go. Faber-Castell, and this is the Albrecht Dürer range. Just a typical watercolor pencil. It really doesn't matter what sort of brand you use. I'm sure the watercolor pencil makers would have something to say about that, but they're all pretty good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by drawing my my figures. And then I'm going to use watercolor pencil to do so. And then I'm going to pick out the lines I like with a regular pencil. And then I'm going to use a little bit of water to get those colors going. So here we go. So I'm getting my shape. I'm getting my shape of my head, putting on the ears, and I'm getting his nose in, and I'm working pretty fast. The guy sitting down, but he might not be there very long. So I'm really, really working fast. I try to find a position where he's more likely to look a bit comfortable. He's a human, so he's going to move around quite a lot. So I'm just getting the basic shapes of him. He's going to move around quite a lot. And sometimes you know you're being watched or you're being noticed. But to be honest with you, the vast majority of time, people don't notice. And even if they do notice, they don't really register that there's someone drawing them. For starters, they're not used to it. So it's not like they have a set response to it. And secondly, people are busy with their own day and their own stuff. So they just don't respond. They really don't. So take my word for it, you'll be amazed. And even if they do, he's got a cigarette in his hand. So I'll just show you close up what I'm doing so far. And I'm looking for the tilt of his body. So just look at the tilt. You've got this, you look for the way the person is sitting. I'm just getting all my little basic shapes in. I'm getting the creases of his arms, of his jacket creases, and I'm getting his jacket around him. And you'll notice, by the way, in a second, that I'm going to finish him pretty much in entirety before I go into the next guy, for the very obvious reason, and very good reason, that you draw the people that you want to draw as much as you possibly can before they disappear on you, because disappear they will. If you draw fast enough, you'll get him down. So get used to getting those lines super fast. So I've got my basic shape, got my guy here, and before he has a chance to escape, I'm looking at him. I'm taking my 2B pencil, nice soft pencil, and I'm picking out some of the lines that I think I was a bit more successful with. I start to notice that his nose is quite prominent underneath. His eyes only get dots, but what he is going to get the addition of there is eyebrows. So take a look there, a little close up of his face. And I notice that he's got very pronounced lines on either side of his nose. So you're looking for any lines that look like they'll be noticeable if they're not there. So you're looking for prominent lines always. Remember, above all, to draw what you see. And I know that's such a cliche. And I know it's easier said than done. Draw what you see, not what's in your mind. But I think it's Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain by Betty Edwards. I think she said something, I can't remember the exact figures, but it's something like you should be looking up 90% of the time and looking down, just quick glances. And remember, any questions that you have as I'm working away, just feel free to ask away. And you'll notice that I've put his mouth open because it kind of adds to the feeling that he's talking. Now, the guy in the reference photo, so to speak, the reference sketch, these guys did meet, but they only met briefly. And while I was drawing this guy, there was a different companion. So sometimes sketches aren't really true in the sense that a photograph is true. You just have to do what you have to do. So sometimes the person who was there when you were drawing one guy gets up and leaves, and vice versa. So you just have to, as I say, you have to just do what you can. I was lucky the day I did this, but then, as they say, the more I sketch, the luckier I get. So it is true that you begin to focus more quickly. I want to get his coffee cup in because the whole thing about this scene is that it's a cafe sketch. And I absolutely love drawing in cafes. I love the fact that it doesn't matter what's going on in my life. If I'm meeting someone and I'm expecting a really pleasant afternoon, then you can arrive a bit early if you want. Or if I'm, on my own and I can't find anyone to come out and have a good time, well, then you can go to a cafe and you can be all by yourself, and you can get sketching, and you'll just have a lovely time. You won't even notice the fact that you're on your own. So it really is a fantastic winter activity, or anytime activity. The waiters love it. The waitresses, the staff, they all love it. They're just always enchanted to see the drawing taking shape. I'm very anti cigarettes, but that doesn't stop me pushing them in. There's his chair, and his legs. Classic cliche. Man spreading his legs are confidently, we'll say, apart. Okay, so there's the legs of the chair. Getting that little. Bit of a noise there, Kathleen. Is everything okay there?
Yeah, I was just about to ask. We've got an interesting question because you're talking more about sort of touching in proportions.
Yeah, sure.
Andy was asking, is it essential to know how to draw for sketching?
Well, the way you learn how to draw is by sketching. So really, I started off, I mean, when I started as a sketcher in 2012, when I started urban sketching regularly, I drew everything in pencil and then went on top of it in pen because my shapes just weren't right. But little by little, that was 2012, and little, in fairness, I had drawn all my life, but I still wasn't very happy with my ability to draw fluently. And just with time, your hand, it's like driving, your hand just becomes really, really good at picking up what it's supposed to do. It does take a little bit of time, but you do get there. And before you know it, you really will be, you'll be amazed at your progress. So do you need to learn to draw before you sketch? No, it's like saying, do you need to learn to drive before you start driving? No, that you learn on the job. You look at what's in front of you, try not to be intimidated. Do you know what a really good thing to do before you start jumping in? Oh, by the way, just as I'm talking, I'm going to start putting in a little bit of watercolor just to grab that edge of water. It's a little bit of water just to grab that edge of color in the sides of this guy here. Yeah, I was going to say a really good way to get into the vibe of sketching things that you feel, oh God, you know, I'm going to make a mess of this. Sketch things that are never going to look nice, no matter how well you draw them. Like draw a dustbin or something like that. Or what else could you draw that just isn't going to end up looking good? Something like, you know, a window with a broken curtain or something like that. Something that just, no matter how beautifully you draw it, it's just, in other words, the pressure is off you. So I think that sometimes, so that, by the way, I just want to cut across myself there and say, with the watercolor pencil, it's if you choose your colors right. I've chosen a kind of yellow ochre here, and it means I can get his skin tones in without sort of worrying about if I'd maybe drawn in red or something, it might have been a different matter. So I'm just going to throw on a little bit of blue for the trousers, and it's just a super quick way to get those colours in. And excuse the noise behind me, by the way. Ireland and Britain have got a massive storm at the moment, so hopefully the wind we have isn't coming through completely. But anyway, that's what's going on. If you hear a noise, oh, I forgot to draw his feet. So I find feet can be very challenging. So the nice thing about the watercolor pencil is that you can just draw them again until you get the right feel for it. Just lengthening the legs of the chair there so that it doesn't look kind of nuts. The feet, go on, Kathleen.
Sorry, I had to cut you off. Quick question: is this a watercolor paper or a book board?
Very good question. This is watercolor paper. I did go through a phase of using Bristol board. I think they call it in the States. Cartridge paper, we call it. I think that's the same thing. I'm not sure. But it doesn't have any texture on it. So it's very hard to get that nice watercolor feel. And I did, as I say, I did produce lots and lots of sketches on that. But after a while, and I thought they were great. I mean, I really enjoyed it. But after a while, I just said, you know what? I want my watercolor paper to show the watercolor texture. So now I always use watercolor paper, and this one is 200 grams per square meter. What is it? 200 grams per square meter, which is 90 pounds. 90 pounds in the US terms. So there's my little guy, and I've just sort of thrown him on, nothing too dramatic. And at that stage, I'm not too bothered whether he gets up and leaves, and I'm happy to start putting in my next guy. So my next guy, I'm going to give him a bit of a blue initial shape, and he's got this. Let me just show you him so you can picture what's going to happen. Here he is. And this guy was just, as they say, too cool for school. He could see me right in front of him drawing him, but there was no way he was going to acknowledge me. And that was the way I liked it. I didn't want to start saying, oh, do you mind if I draw you? So people, if you're not doing anything offensive by drawing someone, they really don't mind at all. They don't seem to mind. And if they just don't care. They either don't mind or they don't care. So I would say, take heart. They're just not going to say anything, and if they do say something, it'll be something very nice, and they'll be usually pretty pleased to be drawn. Okay, so let's get back to this blue here, and I'm trying to get and by the way, make a little note in your mind, shoulders go much higher from the head when someone's sitting down than you might think. Let's get them a little bit. See, I've changed my line here, so you can get away with that, changing the lines when you're drawing in watercolor paper. And remember I was saying about the slope of the body? So look at his slope. He's got quite a slope going on, and then his arm is forming a kind of a tripod to give himself a little bit of a structure. And then, of course, the omnipresent puffer jackets. It's really worth getting a little technique going for the puffer jackets because everybody wears them. So let's use that brown again. With watercolor pencil, you have to be careful to use a color that's you're going to be happy with for skin. Just be aware of that because it is going to show through. So here's his other leg, giving him, see, look, I've got a little bit of a kind of a bum, 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 kind of a triangle-y feeling. Yeah. Here's his other hand, and he's got it leaning over a chair. The fingers, I always say to my students, don't worry too much about the hands, just make a bunch of bananas. As long as you can see what the hand is supposed to be doing, really, its job is done. So he's got his phone in his hand. He's having a look at his phone there. And even putting in the phone just completes the picture. It's quite surprising how it just gives context. Suddenly you're looking at it and you go, oh, yeah. And the brain sort of knows what you're looking at. And look at the chair at the top of the support of the back goes all the way down in a straight, in a continuous line. Now, I was going to say straight line, but it's a curved line. And then the front two legs, see the way there's a little bit of a gap between the back leg and the front leg, just to show that the leg it just kind of gives the perspective of the chair. And then we've got the crisscross, something like that. So again, these chairs, it doesn't apply to these chairs, but one type of chair that you're going to see a lot of is the woven back, the plastic woven back. So in my mini workshop, in the 90-minute demo, you're going to do a drawing with me, and part of what you're going to do is the woven plastic back, which, trust me, you're going to use so many times. So I'm using my lead pencil here, my graphite pencil, just to pick out any lines that I think are going to be a bit more dominant. And what you can do, what the nice thing is that the color pencil gives you the option of moving your lines slightly to the left or right. In other words, you can say, okay, that wasn't quite right. And sometimes you have to see them in front of you to get that feel. Here's his moustache tucked under his nose and his lower lip. So your lower lip has always got more of a shadow than the upper lip. So all you have to do is just that little bit of a shadow, and suddenly that's all you have to do, and it's a lip. It's a mouth. Okay, so give him a bit of a shoulder. Now I'm going to give him see the way I'm making his puffer jackets. Each puff of the puffer gets a little shape, and you can even do a little bit of a pleat. See that? A little bit of a pleat, and suddenly you've got this kind of a believable sort of a jacket. And I don't necessarily draw all the lines because they tend to be shiny. So I'll tend to leave a little bit of the line incomplete, just to show the little bit of a shine.
And Róisín, you're breaking down proportions so easily for us. Before before we miss out this one of these questions from
Mhm.
Ashley. How do you get stealthy and not make your subjects
Yeah.
uncomfortable with sketching them?
Okay.
Yep.
Here's a really good tip. A few years ago, I was asked to do something. I was asked to draw a village, and I was asked to draw this particular resident in the village. And they said, just make sure he doesn't catch you drawing him, because he was a little different, and the person who said it to me said, if he catches you drawing him, I promise you, you are never going to get away. So I said, okay, I must make sure he doesn't catch me drawing him. But the problem was he was in his tractor. He was having his cup of tea and his biscuit, and he was in his tractor, and like there was nobody else. There was no other tractors. There was my car parked across the road, and there was no way I was going to get away with being discreet. So what I did was every time that he looked at me, I just pretended I was drawing the tree over his right shoulder. And it worked a treat. So I would suggest and I do this automatically. If I feel someone, and it doesn't happen very often, I can assure you, but if I feel someone has noticed me drawing them, then I just take a glance over their shoulder, and I appear to be concentrating furiously on something that's somewhere else. I was talking about this with a male friend of mine who does an awful lot of drawing in the Paris Metro, and he said the fact of the matter is, he said, uh, women are they don't invite confrontation, but men don't care. Men don't care. They're genetically programmed, to be up for it. So it was an interesting one. That was just his take on it, and it was an interesting one because I do see a lot of people drawing people right in their face, and I just couldn't do that, even though I am so used to drawing people. So there is a limit for me, and I do try to be very discreet. But as I say, I love drawing people, and I draw people absolutely all the time, wherever I am, everywhere, public transport, cafes, airports, airplanes, you name it, I'm drawing people. So I can assure you from experience that this guy didn't get his foot drawn, so I'm just going to suggest it. But I can assure you from experience that people will not notice you. They will not notice you. If you feel, now I'm just pushing a little, see, I'm getting that yellow ochre. Oops, a little bit of blue. So he's got a bit of a blue nose. Doesn't matter. If you do feel you're getting noticed and you don't want to, look over their shoulder and they won't. You can just get on as you were, and then they'll just get up back to whatever they're doing. Let's face it, people are looking at their phones or their laptops. Look at the way I'm leaving bits of white, so that I'm just using little bits of watercolor at the edges to try and get that shiny look. See if I can get it around the corner. And as regards proportions, I know people say proportions all the time. I would say it's not for me proportions, just as for me it's not about perspective, it's about looking, it's about being honest and looking. And I just think that, with the color pencils, sure, we're all trying to look very hard, but you can get away with an awful lot when you're just drawing with color pencils. And just pop on his shoes, because I didn't draw them at the time, so I'm just giving them blobs. So basically, if I don't have a reference, if I didn't do it at the time, that's it, it's gone. I don't get a chance to do it unless I can make it up. Okay, so my first two characters are done, and I no longer look at them. They can do what they like. They can go away. They can do whatever they want. I'm on to the next person. So I'm going to start. I always start at the... Oh, sorry. What happened here? There we go. Sorry, there's a bit of a delay there. So I always start at the foreground, and I work backwards. And why do I do that? Well, because... why do I do that? Well, it's to give myself a good focus, and also... it means that you can put in your lines and just start working backwards. And I'm always referring to the lines I have as I start working backwards. So in other words, I draw this guy between these two arms, and then I draw this little head peeking up over this guy's shoulders. So there's no way I'm going to draw the guys in the background first, because I don't know how far they come down for the shoulders, if you know what I mean, of the next guy. So this guy I thought was lovely. He was really dreamy. He looked like he was an old guy with long white hair. He wasn't that old, but he looked like a guy who'd sort of, fallen through a time warp from hippie times. And it was just really, really nice person to draw. And by the way, many people are never going to notice you, really and truly, because they're just lost in their thoughts. So I know it can be a little bit intimidating. By the way, watch out for the position of the head. I'm just thinking, I think I'm okay, roughly in line with the top of the baseball cap of the guy in front. So once again, I'm just blocking out my rough shapes. This is his hand, and he's leaning on his hand. So I'm just giving a rough shape, and then his hair is coming down like this on either side. It was quite messy. And then you kind of very dreamy eyes. And the nice thing about it as well, I'm just thinking his face looks a lot wider than it did in reality. So when I go jumping in with my more serious pencil, I can move things a little bit and you just won't notice. A bit more of a nose because he's an older guy. So when you're drawing children, they have much more delicate features, and any lines that you might be tempted to draw, you just leave out as many as you possibly can. This is watch, his hand, and
I'm just gonna have to read. Sorry to cut you off. I'm just gonna read this super cool comment from Ashley. You're a hand master, and I definitely agree. Róisín was able to accomplish this in like 20 minutes. That was pretty cool, like in a short span of time. Yep.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much. But I know it sounds like it's easy. Look, I can't do feet, okay? I can do hands, but I can't do feet. I have to keep reminding myself, what do I tell my students? And in other words, take my own medicine, listen to my own lessons. And the lesson is always the same. Do what you see, draw what you see, draw what you see. Try to forget what you know. Trying to draw what you think you know is lethal. It really is. So if you're drawing your person and you're saying, okay, I know the nose is shaped like this, I know people's noses do this, that, and the other, you are really destined to failure. I think it was Picasso who said, I think it was one of those art quotes that pop up on your screen. If I could only forget what I know and draw what I see, then I don't know what he said, something like, then I'm a master, something like that. So it really is so vital. And by the way, I'm popping in this beautiful young girl who was at the side here. You see her there in front of this guy. It really is so important to try and just draw what you see. And I would say to you that becomes so much easier with time. I'm giving her a little delicate little nose. And my pencil isn't very sharp. Remember to keep your pencil very sharp. So my pencil line is ending up all over the place, but I'm okay with that because I know that I can fix it and adjust it a little bit when I do my darker pencil. So yes, definitely need to go sharper. So keep those pencils sharp or you will not be able to get your lines exactly where you want them. So she's got a little cute profile and I'm just popping on her when she's wearing one of those oversized sweaters. So the stripes are going all the way down the top of her shoulder. And look at the way her body is curved. And I'll fill in my guy here in a sec. There's his table. She's flattened at the top to show that his arms are leaning on it. And likewise, her chair, it's got this nice curve to support her body. But she's really quite curvy. I'm sure if her mum saw her, she'd be there. Sit up straight. There we go. So she's quite curved. So you'll notice that your people are very, very curved in their bodies. They're almost molded into their chairs at times. So I have a book out from last year, which is in the Urban Sketching Handbook series. And it talks about, and I'm going to mention it here because it's really, really, I think it's a really good thing to look out for, which is that, look, it's actually, I didn't make up the tip. It was Quentin Blake, who's just this incredible English illustrator, children's illustrator. And he said, always ask yourself, where is the weight? How is the weight supported? So is the weight on the arm, like our friend here, leaning on his hand? Is the weight on his arm and he's leaning here? Or is the person standing up? And is the weight going through their legs? And if so, which one? And I when I heard that and I started thinking about that, it really made me draw differently, and it made me get that weight, always looking for the weight. So I would highly recommend that's something that you try and keep in mind when you're drawing your figures. So he's got his the way you kind of have your fingers sort of stuck into your mouth when you're leaning over like that. So there's our friend at the back. And I'm going to use my lovely pencil, my lovely 2B pencil, to start getting a little bit of shade just to fill in some areas quickly. And you'll notice with the young girl, you only draw halfway up with the hair and then you leave the top half. You can do it quite hard. You do the top half just white so that she looks like she's got a shine in her hair. You can fill in a little bit of the crown. And you'll notice the blue scribbly lines around her. You can see that I changed her size. But I had the leeway to do that because I was doing it in the color pencil. But the color, I'm going to just fill in her little nose and her cheeks and then give her a little bit of water. So all you need is your pot of water, your pointy paintbrush, which in this case, it's called an R13, a Rosemary 13. It's made by Rosemary & Co. And it's a travel brush, and it's such a good brush. I highly recommend it. Filling in a little bit of the guy's sweater and a little bit of his face. Do I have enough coloring pencil? I just put a little bit on to give myself that little bit of color. But yeah, I mean, it was a German friend of mine called Nicola Meyer-Reimer. She's just amazing people sketcher from Hamburg. And she also uses this color pencil technique followed by a stronger pencil. And I just think it looks terrific. The wind is really picking up now here in Ireland. The kids have all been off school because the government didn't want to put them on public transport. The winds are that high. So I'm using and by the way, another thing, you'll sometimes when you're beginning your people sketches, you'll find that you're working in pen. Now, as I say, I normally work in pen. And you can sometimes find that your hand is very tentative and you want to have, the cliche, the loose drawing, the loose hand. But get in there with your coloring pencil, and I think that you'll be pleasantly surprised how your hand will just loosen up, partly because you really have to be quite severe with the coloring pencil to get any kind of there's a comment. What are the common challenges you encounter when people... Sorry, Kathleen, go first.
No worries. Yeah, I was just gonna ask. There's a comment from the question from the chat.
Yep.
Because you were just mentioning, why do you use graphite instead of pen as you usually do? And maybe we could do like a quick rundown of the materials again. Because what pencil colors do you carry and how?
Okay, so these are just because I'm not exactly going for the color, I'm going for the tones. You'll get away with one or two colors. So I've just got, what am I using here? I have got I think it's some sort of it's just a yellow ochre. What's it called? Does it have the name written on it? You can see what color it is. It's just a basic soft light brown. It really doesn't make any difference. Like I didn't go too dark brown because I wanted to use it for the skin, and these guys were more sort of Middle Eastern, I suppose. So I thought that color was pretty good for these guys. I'm just going to cut off his jaw a little bit, so you can go back in and you can tweak him a bit more beard. And once the color pencil is a bit more dry, you can model your drawings a bit more. So you can see I've cut off quite a lot of his chin. So those are and the other one I've got here is just well, you can see yourself, it's written on it, phthalo blue. I guess that means the other one has got it written on it. Hold on, it says ochre. Oh, there you go, burnt ochre. So there you go. But this is a little set of 12 colors, so you don't get much in the way of variety. So let's get this guy behind him in. This is when it starts taking real shape, is when you start getting the little people in the background. And that's a good thing because they're really easy to do. All they are is just little curved collars. So don't forget that curve for the collar. And your 2 ears sticking out. Mustn't forget those ears. And this guy had a, don't they call it a fade or something? I should know. I've got a 20-year-old son. When it's shaved at the back. There we go. So you begin to and he had a cigarette in his hand as well. So let's give a little bit of smoke going up there. So once you start building up the background, even though there's very little detail in the background, people, that's when suddenly you start getting that sense of depth and 3 dimensions. So give him a little bit of dark hair there, a little bit of, I'm borrowing a little bit of blue for the back of his head to show the very, very shaved kind of area. But you can be very, very quick, and you can be very, very sketchy with your people. And before you know it, you've got quite a full little scene. So this guy, again, you've got that lovely curve. It's always like that. You're never going to get a straight line for the shoulders of the person seen from the back. Once they're sitting down, their whole body goes into a curved position. And his companions, the heads are a little bit lower. Just popping in there. His other companion. So they're at the same level as each other. And in back comes my regular graphite pencil. So this is, as I say, this is just a 2B pencil, but this is the Etchr brand. So it tends to be a little bit softer and a little bit darker than the Faber-Castell version. So your 2B in this is more like a 3B in a Faber-Castell, if you get me. And I like to give these funny little faces. That's just the way I draw. I don't know why. No human has ever looked like that, but they just, with my pen, they get dots. They get dots for eyes. I don't know why. So I'm going to fill in this guy here a little bit.
Róisín, speaking of faces, Buta Crafts over here shared her sentiments about doing facial features. Do you have any tips for practicing facial features?
For facial features, I do. I'm sorry to say it, but it comes back to the same thing again. Draw what you see. And you know what? Sometimes you have to draw something that feels so counterintuitive. Like, for example, let me just give you a little example. Say someone's looking down and you're really struggling and you're like, how am I going to get them looking down? And you sort of do something like this. The nose is, seen from the top, but it still doesn't look right. You really have to look, and you'll notice that the brow and the mouth is so close. They're all so close together, and the ears are sent right back around the sides of the head. So you really find that, and then the shoulders will be set right back as well. And most of what you see is the top of the head. So it's quite amazing. It can be very, very counterintuitive, but you just have to always draw what you see. A really good thing to practice, and it's great because they can't see you, is people from behind, and you'll see that they have this little cheek sticking out like this. So there's a little indent for I know this isn't facial features, I'll get onto that in a second. And then the ear, the curve of the ear is matching the curve of the cheek. And then you've got the hair, again, taking up most of the face, but you can get really into practicing people from behind because you'll never get caught. Facial features. What else can I say about facial features? I keep it very, very simple. What I don't do is start putting people's eyes in sort of, very, very detailed. That's not what I would do at all. And even if I was drawing, even if I was drawing a cartoon or a comic, I just wouldn't do that. That's just not me. It's not. I mean, I love, as they say, telephone doodles. It's fine, but not for people in the wild. So people in the wild, they will get very, very little in the way of eyes. They'll get dots. They'll get very little in the way of a nose. They'll get very little in the way of a mouth. They'll get a shadow under the lip. They might get cheekbones. But I'll tell you what I'll do, which is really, really handy. I'm just going to lop on a little bit of watercolor pencil here. And I say the light is coming from this direction, okay? So I'm going to just fill in the color on one side of the face only. And that can end up looking quite realistic. So let's just put on some nice hair. Again, this doesn't come very naturally to me because I do like to draw, from actual people. So just soften that out with a bit of water. And you can maybe do a little bit for the other eye where there's a little bit of it's a little bit sunk. But that's basically all you're going to get with me. So for me, I will say that the position of the person is probably more important, and what they're doing, because I tend to draw, as I say, people in the natural environment. They're generally speaking doing something. I used to absolutely love life drawing classes, but once I became an urban sketcher and I got more into drawing people actually in real life, that was the end of life drawing for me, because I did not find it as exciting to draw people sort of standing in front of you holding a pose. It was always for me much more fun to get out there and catch the real people. So the other good thing is, and it's only kind of an incidental thing, but you will find that people are extremely nice when you're sketching out and about. It's quite amazing how accommodating and kind people are. So if ever you feel like you've given up on humanity, I would always say go ahead and get out there and do some drawings, and you will be blown away by how lovely people are. Oh yeah, and I'm going to give you another tip. This is a good news one for all the ladies of my vintage. There's this cliche that women are invisible once they get to a certain age in life. That is exactly what we want as a sketcher. So people really don't notice you. They really don't notice you, and they are busy with their own stuff and their own day, and they just don't. So don't be too worried about interactions. This guy on the left. Oh, sorry about that. This guy on the left. This I learned. This man is called Monsieur Casson, and we were in a town that is dominated by Michelin tires. And this guy, everything to do with the town, everything to do with Clermont-Ferrand is to do with Michelin. They are the biggest employer by far and have been in the past. And even the trams have got Michelin tires on the wheels, so that they're known as the quietest trams in the world. Because Michelin said they were going to have them, and so they had them. But this guy was sitting here with a Goodyear label on his baseball cap, which is the rival tire company. So myself and my friend, my German friend that I was with, we decided that he might be a spy, and we were having a bit of a laugh, and so we drew him, and he came over and he said that he had been a great, he was really into drawing back in the 70s. He was an older guy, and he was just enchanted to talk about his youth. And he mentioned a famous French movie star who happened to come across him when he was sketching on the street in Paris back in the day, and it was just such a lovely encounter. So these little things happen all the time when you're out sketching, and really and truly, and people who are nicer than me will give their sketches to the person they're drawing. I never do, because they're mine, but people really do. People are my colleagues always put me to shame and say, oh, he liked it so much, I just tore it out and gave it to him. Well, that's not happening with me. But you'll be surprised at how your day is brightened up by what you get up to. And really, people will be blown away by your level, even if you don't think that you're a master. People will be blown away by what they see you do. They're always enchanted, and I think there's something very human about watching another human do something wonderful and creative. People will be in awe, and they'll just be so honored, and it's just a lovely thing to do. So I'm putting on his moustache here and his little white goatee. So he had white hair at the back. So if I want to do white hair, now I'm only beginning this here, so you can't see much, but I'm just giving these little tufts at the back of the head. And then once again, with my paintbrush, I use that little bit of brown watercoloring pencil to fill in a little bit of his skin and his nose in between the little white tufts, and there's his hands. Again, he's got his newspaper, and he's got one of those ubiquitous puffer jackets. So remember, bunches of bananas. I always say bunches of bananas. It's kind of me being a bit cheeky, because I remember somebody talking about being in life drawing class, and the teacher got very cross and said, "You're not drawing bunches of bananas, you're drawing hands." And so I always think that, yeah, you kind of are drawing bunches of bananas, as long as you can tell what the hand is supposed to be doing. So this guy was holding, I can tell, look, even though it's just a few scribbles, I can tell he was holding his reading glasses.
Right.
And he was poking the other side of the paper as it bent up and sort of caught in the breeze.
Super cool. And we have accomplished so much in like less than 40 minutes, I guess. So I guess you guys could follow along. Someone was actually sharing that she's headed to Starbucks with her friends to do like
brilliant.
So yeah, these principles are very much handy for her. So that's pretty
nice.
Oh,
I'm delighted. Well, I hope if they're still there, I hope you have a great time in Starbucks. And I hope you share what you did, and tag us so that we can see it. And above all, no matter what happens to your drawing, you'll enjoy yourself, which is the whole thing. Because the more you enjoy yourself, the more you'll go back and do more. And the more you go back and do more, the better you'll get. So, as
Quick
they say
question.
in Etchr, go on.
Yeah, quick question. Do you start at dark part of the pencil shading or light when you add the water?
I will go for I will only add the water on the side away from the light. So that was a really good question. I only add the water. So in this drawing, now let me just see, have I got it consistent before I start showing you? Yes, now I wouldn't have been conscious of this at the time, but you can see that the light is coming from the left. Okay, so the white parts of everybody's garment are on the left. Well, he's not following that rule. So maybe there probably wasn't that much light. It was a cold November day. But yeah, when it comes to picking up the light, I will always leave the side unpainted, unwet where the light is, and I'll only, as you can see, I'll really sort of emphasize it on the side away from the light. So the watercolor pencil is really, really handy. I'm sort of wondering if I'd had a Payne's grey pencil as well. I think that might have been nice. And as you'll see from the reference photo, I used a magenta pencil for some of the background. So it's up to yourself. You whatever's calling to you, whatever you are in the mood for. It really makes, as I say, one of the colors I try to get at something that could be thought of as a skin color. But other than that, I'm not too bothered. I'm not too bothered about the general colors. I mean, you can go a bit crazy. You can bring in greens and so on. So it's really, you can get as creative as you like.
And now that you've talked about that, does it also work the same with pen?
What that
Oh,
say that
the
again.
yeah, because we asked about adding water
Yeah,
to the yeah. Does it also work the same with
yeah,
pens?
yeah, yeah. Now I use waterproof ink. That's why I was a bit hesitant there. So I'm one of these people who just, the line is the line, and then it, like you can see, this is all waterproof ink. So none of my ink gets diluted by the brush once I start fiddling around with paint. None of the ink gets diluted. But a lot of people will work deliberately with a water soluble ink, so that they, again, just like you say, they will pick up the side that is in the shade, and that way it can look really, really beautiful. Yeah, definitely, it can be really a lovely way to draw. I mean, some people will just bring black into the field and in a non-waterproof ink, and then they'll just work away and have grays around the sides.
Cool. And let's see. Just one last quick question from Buta Crafts. What is your favorite ink color for people sketching? Though we're using colored pencils now, but yeah.
Yeah, my favorite ink for color for people sketching is always brown, and it's my favorite brand is Diatramentis, and it's a as I say, a waterproof ink, and it is I don't know why, but they say it's handmade, so I don't know why that's got anything to do with anything, but just going to fill in here real quickly, and then I'm going to slosh the water around. But yeah, it's a lovely color, and do you know why I like brown? I'll tell you, because when you do make a mistake, it's just not quite as harsh when you look at your big glaring error, um, when you do it in brown. And I also, all my students will know, I never go anywhere without my white gel pen. So with the aid of my trusty white gel pen, I can get rid of little mistakes. I can just draw over them, and you know, no one's any the wiser. So that's a really, really handy thing to have with me. Just fitting in around the fluffy fluff of his jacket, and made it go a little bit darker, closer to the bottom. So this is basically starting to fill in bits of the structure around it. And it's nice to do it in color pencil, because you can just be extremely soft, and you can sort of play with the light and so on, which is kind of nice.
Cool. We're almost. Yeah, we're doing the background now.
Yeah, just really,
Cool.
really quickly hopping it in. The
Yeah.
awning.
That clearly has placed like a depth already to it, like instant
Yeah,
depth to it.
yeah, exactly. Suddenly you get that little bit of and once you put in your color, your regular gray pencil, you can start putting a little bit of shadow as well. Now it's a little bit wet, so if I start scribbling, I'm going to make a hole in the page. So I'll just leave it to dry for a bit.
Okay, and while Róisín is doing all these details, right, the hole in the page. I just want to quickly remind everybody that if you're interested to join Róisín's 90-minute class, I'll be placing again the link in a chat. It's going to be a step-by-step tutorial,
Yeah.
and we're going to be expanding on all of these techniques. And that's going to be on Zoom, so it's going to be recorded. So if you won't be able to attend the class at the moment, you'll still get a copy of the recording, which is a great advantage for you as well.
And I'd just like to point out that I will be using regular color pencils in the mini workshop, not watercolor pencils. So it's something that you can just be a little bit, it'll be more focused on using the color pencils to get your initial shapes, and then we'll use actual watercolor to be a little bit more, I suppose, nuanced with the colors.
In depth. All right, thank you so much for that. Super
You're
cool.
welcome.
Okay.
Just throwing on a few bits of colors.
No worries. I think everybody has been so. There's a super nice comment from Buta Crafts. So happy to see and watch Róisín live today. Got your handbook, and I hope to be good in people sketching. Oh wow!
Oh, thank you. I wish you the very best of luck with it, and the fun is in the learning.
Definitely. Do you want to talk more about that handbook you've got? Since they've brought it in the topic already.
Yeah, I would say what I have a couple of them in stock at the moment. So I had one to hand a minute ago. Where have I put it? I don't
Oh, no
see it.
worries.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. So basically, it's full of my family because that's who I draw. I work from home, so the only other humans I'm going to get to draw for the most part are my family. However, I also get to teach workshops all around Europe. So one of the best secret subjects for anybody, any sketcher, is other sketchers because they don't move. So there's a lot of pictures of my students and that kind of thing. But I love sketching people wherever I am, and the book is, when they asked me to do it at Quarto, I was thinking, how can I teach people how to draw people just in one short book? And then I said to myself, right, if I can hope to inspire people to for the joy and the fun of drawing people in the wild, then that would be how you're going to get better. Because once you start actually getting out there and getting that practice in, that's when you really, really start seeing improvements. And there is no magic bullet. It's all about looking, and so hopefully there's loads of tips and techniques. That's what the handbook series is all about, tips and techniques. So I hope if you get your hands on it, I hope it's something that'll bring more fun and more satisfaction to your people drawing.
Super cool. And I think we're done. Oh wow, that was super quick. Let me just go ahead and bring you back in so that everybody could see you. Awesome. All right, super cool. Has been a really great demonstration. Do you have a link to that lovely workbook? Ashley was asking. Maybe you could check out Róisín's Instagram. Maybe she could place it in her
Yeah,
stories.
yeah,
Anything.
sure.
Yep.
Sure. It's actually it's in my feed at the moment. A couple of days ago, I have 3 books out at the moment. So that book is one of them. So, and I think I have about, I don't know, I have about 10 or 12 copies in stock at the moment. So they're selling fast, but at the moment you're fine.
Cool. Thank you so much for that. And great question. We still have like a couple of questions. I think we can answer some of them before we end. Otherwise, you could go ahead and go back to these questions, Róisín. The chat has been super active, and which is a good sign actually. So, let's see. When you assess a crowd scene, where do you consider beginning?
Always the foreground. And also, don't forget that you have to be a detective. You have to try and notice the person who's going to hang around. So watch their glass, watch their cup of coffee. If it's just a full cup of coffee, you know you've got a few minutes. And don't be slow to ask the waiter or the server for their advice. Say, look, I want to draw that guy. Has he just arrived? Is he going to go? And they'll say to you, oh, don't worry, he's just asked for the menu for the desserts. So you know you can get your teeth into it and start drawing them. Um, so yeah, enlist the help of the servers. They're brilliant. They think it's great crack, because they're just doing their job, but this is something a bit different. So they'll love to help you. Um, a smile and friendliness goes an awful long way, and being open and direct. And if you do want to draw someone and it's just you and them, and it's just so obvious, you can just say to them, and if you're dying to draw them, they got great, I don't know, tattoos or a super stripy top or something, you just can't resist, just say to them, listen, I'm drawing this cafe and I really need a person for scale. Would you mind if I put you in? The women will always ask you to make them thinner or younger, but you just go, of course, everyone looks beautiful in my sketches. And then you might end up having a bit of a laugh, so it's really good fun. But yeah, foreground first, or the people who look like they're going to hang around for a few minutes. They're the golden ones. And then after that, you're just going to have to make composites of bodies as they come and go.
Great advice. Thank you so much, Regine. And I guess the other questions have been answered earlier while you were sketching solo, which is pretty cool. So thank you so much again, everybody, for joining us today. And that has been a lovely demonstration. Um, if you enjoyed your time with Etchr Studio and Rogine today, she's going to have a 90-minute class that's going to be on January 6th, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. And again, this is a step-by-step tutorial. You'll get to build up on these techniques. So all you have to do is sign up on our website. I will be putting a bulk link in the chat. And also, Regine, it might be a good idea to go back through all of these chats later on. This has been really super cool. Um, and let's see, if you're already a subscriber, you can also see these classes under upcoming live section in the website. And lastly, please tell us how we did today. I'll be placing the bulk link in the chat to complete our feedback survey, because we always would want to hear your responses. It's going to help us tremendously, and we're always looking for ways to improve your experience. Apart from that, I'm going to be including Rogine's Instagram account so that you'll be able to see some of her works, as well as some of the handbooks that you were mentioning earlier. So if there are no more questions, I think, Regine, any parting words before we sadly have to end this session?
Well, I would just say that for me, whether I make a dog's dinner of my human subjects, or whether I do something really beautiful, there's nothing that can compare to capturing the spirit of your fellow humans, whether they're strangers or whether they're loved ones. And I would say it's worth the effort, it's worth the journey in spades, really many times over. So it's just a great fun thing to do. So I wish you I wish you a happy journey with that.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much, Regine, for sharing your techniques and being so inspiring to everybody today.
Oh, thank you,
Um,
Kathleen.
and until next time, everybody, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. And until next time, make more art, everybody. Bye for
Make
now.
more art.